Welcome to Fintech Chatting, presented by Tier 1 People, leaders in Fintech executive search. Follow us on your favorite podcast player or Fintech Chatter TV on YouTube.
Hello and welcome to another Fintech Shot. This one is coming at you smoother than a coffee patron. I'm joined by my good friend Simone Joyce from Paypa Plane. But before we chat to Simone, I've got a little bit of a call to arms. Recent data shows that the amount of fintech funding in Australia fell almost 90% last quarter compared to the previous year. I created this podcast to give a platform to fintech founders like Simone to help promote their story to the world. We're listened to in over 40 countries, and whilst we haven't seen a drop of 90% in listeners, we have seen a bit of a drop. So if you are listening, please give us a share on your social media platforms. Fintech Chatter is in the top 1% of the most shared podcasts on Spotify, and it's also in the top 1% of the most listened to podcasts in the world. So you're already doing an amazing job. But if you could help us just that little bit more, I'd be forever grateful. Simone, welcome.
Thank you, Dexter. It's good to be with you again.
I'm going to be a bit teary.
Oh.
Are we saying goodbye?
No, we're not. Do you know what? I've spent the last few weeks saying to everyone, I'm not going to the moon. I'm just going to work from a different office. It's fine. But just this weekend, I said bye to my mum and some of my family, and I was a mess. I'm like, oh, where's this coming from?
Yeah. Well, I told you in my text I would be tearing up, right?
I know. Well, don't you do that.
But anyway, we're keeping our listeners in suspense. Share the good news.
Oh, right. I am relocating myself and my family to New York in order to establish Paypa Plane USA, to look after some beachhead clients for us in that market, and to think about establishing a support team to help support and grow that client base. I'm moving actually in 2 days, so it's coming down to the wire, and I am feeling it today.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much for taking some time to join us. I invited you on the show because, we've talked a lot over the years about the importance of international markets and fintechs in Australia looking to go international from day one. And I thought this would be a great opportunity, not only to share the good news, but just, maybe some of the experiences that you've had so far, any advice that you could give to founders. So I guess what really kind of stuck out to me is that you said there that you're going, first of all, to support some beachhead clients, which sounds to me like the ideal way of going and launching overseas. Could you tell us a little bit more about how that came about?
Yeah, sure. So I think that you're right, Dexter, when you say, global from day one. But I will nuance that a little bit. Australia for us is a very good market, and it's always going to be our headquarters, particularly in Brisbane, where our amazing team is all based at the moment. But for when we look forward into the future and we think about the partners and the shareholders that we've got, we know that we also need to be able to grow into new markets successfully in order to really fulfill the promise of the technology that we're building and the shareholders we've got. So we did a lot of, I suppose, soul and globe searching to figure out where the ideal market was for us. And we had a combination of factors that we were really looking for. I originally thought a few years ago that it would be the UK, the global heartland of fintech, but it's not quite the case for us. So I think that we're doing...
Aussies can't deal with this Ashes stuff, can you?
That's what sealed the deal, Dexter. I went, no, move. No. Look, the UK is actually a lot more mature in some respects for the particular trend and trajectory of the market that we're looking for. And the US is right in the sweet spot for us.
Yeah.
So, look, the reason that I'm going, we did a bit of scenario mapping for what typically happens when companies choose to do this, and some companies choose to find someone in market and deputize them and say, look, you're it, build the brand, find the clients. That has some degrees of success, but not necessarily for the client base that we're working with. The second option is that you do part-time splits, so 3 weeks in the new market, 2 weeks back in the home market, and so on and so forth. I don't have the stamina for that type of travel, and I'm pretty sure that my 4 children would be not pleased with those arrangements, let alone my husband. So we actually went for what looks to be the most effective option for having success in the market, which is clients that we're looking at really, really respect and value having founder CEO function in their market. Give them a nice big cuddle and show how important that market is to us as a company. So it's also the best way to protect our downside. It's the best way to measure honestly and clearly exactly what's happening in that market, and to calibrate the whole way through with the board and with the executive team back here in Australia. So that's what we're doing.
Awesome. Interesting that you touched on the kind of differences between the UK and the US markets, because I always kind of chuckle when I see some of my network talking, and I get a lot of actual businesses approach me to be on podcasts from the US, and they're talking about these solutions. I'm like, we ain't got that problem, right? It's
Way good.
Yeah. What do you see as the opportunity for not just Paypa Plane, but Australian fintech innovation to go into the US and actually be successful?
Yeah, I think the first thing that people look at is the size of the market, and there is no denying that it is many times over bigger than Australia. So that's okay. I think so for us, obviously looking at trends in both business banking and real-time payments, as well as other impacts on that, such as open banking or open data, and mixing all that together to figure out where the sweet spots for us to fill up. For us, we're looking at things like the advent of FedNow to sit alongside the existing RTP service from the clearinghouse and the competitive pressure that will bring to the market. We're looking at what challenger banks are doing in that market. So we've seen some success with consumer-focused challenger banks, or I suppose shadow banks like Chime that aren't a bank, but they're still behaving like one. And then we're looking at how that's actually pushing up to business banking services. If we look at the UK again, we saw consumer banks really take root. And then your Monzos, your Starlings, your Cash Plus, your Tide, all of those banks transitioned to business banking and started putting pressure on the incumbents to really up their game in their product offering. We're seeing the start of that in the US. The other thing that we really like about the US is change is often driven by market demand, as opposed to what's happening in Australia, where we're really looking at reforming regulation first before we see the products come to life. Yeah. That has its benefits long term. You have a much more robust, protective and equal ecosystem for people to participate in. In the US, it's almost the opposite, and we saw that with their open data. So Plaid, Finicity and companies like that really drove their open data market. And now we're starting to see some regulation potentially come in. So we like that because there's a lot more propensity for a bank to go, look, this is a great solution. Let's work, with this partner to bring it to life. We don't need to wait for regulation to help us do that. And then we've got a much bigger addressable market under that. So there's a wider pathway for growth. Yeah. I don't know if that answers the question or just hoping so.
It's a great answer, actually, Simone. And look, it's a one that kind of, I think, really summarizes, where we're, the almost the malaise, I would say, that we're in here in Australia in the industry. And it's kind of, it's something that keeps me awake at night, to be honest, right? When I think of the advancements that we've made and the progress that we've made, and over the last 12 months, it just seems like it's being dismantled, week by week. And I think, and I put this post up last week on LinkedIn, which I think you kind of put a little heart to, which was around entrepreneurs don't look to government to solve problems. And I think, unfortunately, we're kind of in this, vicious cycle of looking to the government and regulators to give us the green light.
Totally.
And it's such a dilemma, right? Because
I think there's some inertia there at the moment, and we're almost a victim of our own success. Yeah. So the way that our CDR rolled out, and even the way that services like Pay2 rolled out, really gave a shot in the arm to the foundation layer. So everyone's switched on, everyone's connected. When I say everyone, I mean banks in this respect. That's good. But now we almost need to go, okay, the foundations are set. What's the next thing that we can do bilaterally? How can we creatively work with these foundations to drive more function services adoption? That's really, really hard. Yeah. But fintechs are kind of geared up to do really, really hard things. So, yeah, victim of our own success. We also, in fairness, had a change of government. We've had Treasury really split focus on a few things. So hopefully towards the back half of this year and into next year, we'll see some more activity that will stimulate some more products and services. I also think people are being, understandably conservative with runway at the moment. And when you're being conservative with runway, it's really hard to take a shot that's kind of like a long shot around the outside.
Yeah, look, and unfortunately, it's not being pessimistic. It's not being negative. It's just being factual, right?
Pragmatic. Yeah, totally.
If funding is down and we're losing talent as well, the two things that you need are money and talent to build businesses and solve problems. And I think that's kind of, the kind of, cold warms that we've got now is I think it's, another 6 to 12 months, I think of really bunkering down, as you said, and coming out the other end. And look, it will bounce back. It always does. And
it always does.
Higher.
Yeah. Maybe we're being unfair. Maybe we're actually in the eye of the hurricane as far as what fintechs in Australia are doing. That really weird calm bit.
Yeah.
Before we hit the next tremendous activity. Yeah.
I mean, I'm optimistic, right? And 12 months ago, I was pessimistic. And I was pessimistic because I could see all of the signals that I've seen prior to the GFC, prior to the dot-com crash.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to kind of, be a downer. It was like, get set, get braced. We're gonna have a crash, right?
Get the storm shutters up.
Exactly. And look, I've experienced that in my business over the last 12 months. Now I'm starting to see things come back. And the great thing is, when you look into higher execs and boards, right? That's the catalyst to there are changes coming.
Yeah. The signal flag. You're almost like the Oracle, Dexter. People should come to.
Yeah, the Oracle. Yeah. If only I could apply that Oracle lens to my investment portfolio.
You can't be choosy with your gifts, I think.
Was it? With great power comes great responsibility.
That's right. Very funny. But Dexter, you'll be at Intersekt this year, won't you?
Yeah, so I will actually. But smart man, I'm only doing the Wednesday because on the Thursday everybody is wiped out. So I'm going to go Wednesday, go full of beans, and then back home on the Thursday.
Well, I'm flying back to Australia for Intersekt. I wouldn't miss it this year, so I look forward to seeing you there as well. It's going to be a big one this year.
Yeah. Well, they're always big, right?
It's ever bigger, ever bigger.
Yeah, you got my first one was 2018, right? So I can remember
I remember that. That was down in the Docklands. Yeah. Goodness me, how far we've come.
We have. Yeah. Actually, that was the week where I actually think it was that was the pivot point for Australian fintech, because we had Cybos that week in Sydney as well.
We did. And look, for Fintech Australia, that was a really interesting Intersekt. It had come at the end of a period of quite a lot of turbulence, and it was a miracle that Intersekt went ahead that year, even in the small form that it did. And, it's kind of a nice little, an allegorical tale for fintech in general in Australia, I think. Yeah. We're going to come through it. And the benefit of coming through a phase like we're in at the moment, the eye of the storm or whatever it is, whether you're waiting for regulation or waiting for funding, it rusts on your resilience and your ability to overcome, which, is absolutely critical to having a successful fintech. If you don't have any grit, there's no goals. So,
and look, the great thing is as well, everybody who's around is serious and committed.
Totally.
Yeah. And in it for the long term.
Yeah. There's no tourists in this market now. So.
Well, talking of Intersekt, here's your opportunity to give a plug. Where can people get tickets?
You need to go to Intersekt, Google Intersekt, or look on the Fintech Australia website. That's fintechaustralia.org. I highly recommend, if you want to come, that you do that quickly, because we sold out very quickly last year and there were people trying to beg, borrow and steal tickets.
I could not even get a spare ticket, right?
No, exactly. So don't miss out, particularly if you are sort of thinking about, how am I going to get through this next phase? It's actually, I can't think of a better networking opportunity than what FinTech represents. So
Now, as I mentioned in the intro as well, we're listened to in 40 countries. North America is one of them. We get investors, we get great talent listening to this show. Anybody's interested in Paypa Plane, Aussie, US, what's the best way for them to find out more?
You can go to paypaplane.com. That's PAYPAPLANE. Or you can look me up on LinkedIn, Simone Joyce.
Simone, it's been fantastic to chat to you. I look forward to seeing you at Intersekt. Yeah, I am going to miss you, which is weird, right? Because you're in Brisbane, I'm in Newcastle.
We're in Newcastle.
We only ever see each other at Intersekt anyway.
Right. Well, I'll see you at Intersekt, Dexter.
But you're going to be in North America, so I don't know why that's making a difference, but somehow it is. I think what it's down to is, first of all, I know what it's like to give everything up and start again in a new country. And I think, second of all, you're just somebody who I really consider a friend, and it's just fantastic to see, you and your mission and your family and your business just gone from strength to strength. And that's a reason why I dub you the superwoman of fintech.
Oh, Dexter, thank you. I'm going to miss you too. And if you ever feel like a little holiday to New York, I will be personally offended if you don't look me up and ask if I can accommodate you.
It would very well be on the cards. We'll have to do a fintech chat live from New York.
On a Saturday.
Yeah. It'll be Sunday for Aussies, won't it?
Yeah, I just want to be able to say live from New York, it's Fintech Chatter.
Madison Square Gardens.
I mean, I'm big, right?
We'll stand outside.
I might just get a background that looks like Madison.
Well, Simone, good luck with everything, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Dexter.
As always, folks, you can connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter. If you're new to the show, make sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcast player. And if you like what we do, please consider leaving us a review. It really helps me elevate and share great news and great founders like Simone to the fintech family. Until the next episode, keep well. Fintech Chatter is produced by Tier 1 people, leaders in fintech executive search. We'll find world-class leadership talent to build world-class fintech ventures. And you can find us at tier1people.com.